Season's greetings, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Mayor's Table. With me is Farmington City Manager Rob Mays. We're going to be talking about things that happened in 2022, things that are going on now and into 2023. And don't forget, you can catch the Mayor's Table on these podcast apps. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett here on another exciting episode of the Mayor's Table. With me today is an amazing human being.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Rob Mays, City Manager, City of Farmington. Been here 16 years?
Yeah, going on 17, yeah.
So we had you on most recently. I think we played the budget meeting that you do such a great job on at City Hall, and thought it'd be great to bring you back now. We're here week of Christmas and a 2022, do a kind of a recap on what's gone on this past year.
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to bring you back on and we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about things happening in the public works sector of the city, where we spend substantial amounts of tax dollars and infrastructure and roads and all the other great things that keep this community healthy and running.
Yeah, I think that'll be a fun episode. We live in that world all the time, talking about how many potholes we've filled or how many lanes of traffic we've paved, and people really just have no idea the extent and scope of the investment that's made. And we're proud of our focus and priority on public works and infrastructure. So
you take a lot of pride in that, and I think it's important for people to understand the context of that statement, because when cities fail to uphold their end of the bargain when it comes to like water infrastructure, you were very passionate about the fact that that's what the focus is of a chartered city. That's what you should be doing instead of spending money on other frivolous things. It's
our number one responsibility is to maintain the infrastructure. Nationally, multiple studies show that the national infrastructure in the United States has a D- rating, and that's just not acceptable. So in spite of many years of tough finances and a lot of challenges, we've continued to advance and invest in. It's not as sexy. It's invisible. It's
right
under the ground. And so people take it for granted. But when water lines break, we always joke there's only two kinds of input that we get about construction and public works. It's we're either not doing enough or we're doing too much, because it is an inconvenience. So we ask people to be patient, but in the long run, it's what's setting up the community to be sustainable for a future.
I would say that context that it's because it's underground, it's out of mind. I think because of the amount of work that we have done, probably the last 10 years, how much money we've put into the ground when it comes to water, wastewater, burying electrical lines on 20th Street, that people have seen a substantial amount of those traffic cones. And I always advise folks, look, be patient and clearly understand that it only takes 15 minutes maybe to go from the east side to the west side, regardless of where you might be going. And of course, this time of year, when traffic is busy on Main Street, that means our businesses are busy as well, and that's a good sign for our economy.
Yeah.
And speaking of economy, the thing that drives the services for the people of Farmington is derived out of gross receipts tax, which is collected at the register and other different ways for industries. This year's been a really good year for gross receipts tax.
Yeah, it's a crazy time. I mean, we've had unprecedented challenges in these last year and a half, obviously coming out of COVID, where demand just jumped back out of the box of people wanting to do things, and we still struggle with supply chain issues. Our biggest challenge is still probably being able to maintain a workforce. Out there in the entire culture, it seems like we're in bidding wars for jobs and trying to pay what fast food restaurants pay and so forth. And we still struggle at every level, really, of the organization with employees. But in spite of all that, revenue has been very strong, honestly, the last 2 years. And as we sit here today, year to date, we're looking at about 15% more revenue than a year ago. That's a pretty big jump for for 1 year.
Well, especially in the prior year, we were, I believe, 10%
that's
up
exactly right.
from the year before.
Yeah. Every sector is in fact up. Our gross receipts taxes are collected by the state, and they're categorized in the broad sectors, and gives us a feel. For example, mining, oil and gas is up 137% from a year ago. And so in spite of all the challenges, there's been some good news on the oil and gas front. But every sector is up. Construction's up 20%, manufacturing's up 25%, wholesale trade up 45%. And those are all economic base.
That's what
kinds of areas. I mean, retail is great. It's actually pretty level. It's only up 2%, but it's still very, very strong.
And that's our biggest portion.
It's our biggest percentage
of where we get gross receipts tax from is from retail. And a big change happened, of course, July of 21, when the state began putting online tax and then distributing those online taxes to the locations where the sales were taking place. I think that was a game changer.
It was. I mean, it was becoming more and more critical. We still urge people to support local business.
Oh, yeah.
Brick and mortar jobs, because that supplies local jobs, and we don't want vacant buildings all over town. But the internet was here to stay, and it was really starting to. We estimate maybe 25% of our revenues were being lost to the internet. And so that's a double loss for the community, not only the jobs and the local shopping, but the tax revenue that supports our services.
So when we talk about, we're 15% up year over year, where does that additional money that maybe is not budgeted for, what do we do with that? I know people are always interested in what we do with that. And even extrapolating that to the next part, or what you mentioned earlier, is that maintaining the workforce right now is our biggest challenge, which is the challenge across all industries. But that means we've budgeted for people who probably aren't hired. So how do we account for those dollars as well?
Well, it's a broad question. First of all, let me correct. I said 15%. It's better than that. It's 16.67%. That's our percent from a year ago. So, again, it's been a good year. So we budget conservatively, and we project revenue conservatively. So what that ultimately results in is, at the end of the year, we plan for and hope for a surplus, whereas more revenue came in than we spent. And that's how we like to operate, kind of in the rear of that. And so we'll take that surplus, we'll shift it over to an account that we designate for capital expenditures, non-recurring expenditures. And we'll wait till, instead of projecting ahead, we'll work a year in behind, and that way we can't really get hurt by that by moving conservatively. So this year there'll be more money than typical will spill over into that reserve account to be identified for capital expenditures. In the last few years, prior to the last couple of years, we had many, many lean years, as you know. A lot of things got, kicked down the road. City fleet, buildings, roofs, HVAC units, on big capital expenditures and maintaining our infrastructure here. And so we've been investing heavily in fleet, investing heavily in HVAC units, and all kinds of things, from sewer lines breaking. There'll be a lot of old buildings, and so it's been really it's been a great accomplishment to be able to catch up on some of those things, and it's really exciting. Our employees, it's such a morale builder for them to be able to see the things getting fixed and things getting caught up on, because that's the environment they work in. If you're driving an old rusted truck around that breaks down when you're trying to go out to a job to fix something, pretty frustrating.
Well, and even something as simple, and I say simple, it's very expensive, but putting in a new asphalt parking lot.
Parking lots, yes.
Parking lots are huge. And
good point. We've identified over the last several years, we're doing a few parking lots every year.
Yeah, which we couldn't do before. Since 2008, there was a lot of those things that obviously got pushed back, and so it has been good these past few years to be able to put money back into the organization, back into the actual structures involved there. And in 2022, we actually had an opportunity to transfer some of that money that we are currently over budget on, or under budget on, rather, with the surplus,
revenue surplus,
the surplus, and we've put that towards work already this year.
Yes.
So when it came to the purchase of the police station, we had that money because we had that surplus. The purchase of the new police station on Bloomfield Highway, we were able to pay that cash.
Right.
Which is, just talk about the right place at the right time for a project like that, but then also the monies that are going to be necessary for the renovation of that building, all that we have available and are going to be able to pay it out of pocket.
Yeah, that's one great example. Another one. We kind of like to operate, again, conservatively, utilizing a savings account. more than our checking account on a lot of those kinds of things.
It certainly saves money. Instead of having to finance it,
Well, certainly.
you go out to bond on it. I mean, it just helps.
I mean, obviously, we do bond large projects, but small things like that, you would never want to be in a position, an organization our size, to be borrowing money for $5 million and below projects.
I think the police station, when I look at 2022, is one of the big wins for this community. We, since I've been on the council since 2014, and one of the first things I was hit with was a lobbying effort by our police department then to say, hey, we really need to get in to a new police station. We need to build it. We need to figure out a way. And I remember making the statement like, we need to put this on the capital improvement plan. We need to be out there looking for money for these things. And unfortunately, they're not just throwing money at building new police stations across America. And so I think it reached a point after 8 years going, man, I don't know if we're going to get this done. And then lo and behold, we came into a great opportunity for 55,000 square feet of really state-of-the-art facility. And that's,
And to buy something like that for $3 million, I mean, you could. I mean, our estimates on building a new building were, $50-60 million. And who knows in this market?
To put, especially to put all the technology and everything that you would have to put in there for a police department to function efficiently and at the current levels that we need them to.
Yeah. That'd be probably a fun episode of the Mayor's Table to go out on site and and show the people that and what's going to be coming there.
Well, I think with the real-time crime center component also, which is the meeting we were in the other day, just looking at the scope of how we can more effectively utilize that system to help fight crime. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It is, and that's something that's really come on in the last several years, but it's by both opportunity and necessity. We can't have a cop on every corner. We can't have a cop on every square inch of our trails. Labor shortages cost, but technology, by having that, we've been able to solve a number of pretty significant crimes by having that technology on our river trails and our parks and in some cases on our streets.
So clearly we are public safety focused. We are public infrastructure focused. When we look at the big pie of dollars that come in through gross receipts tax, and just to give people some idea here, we've in this year's budget, so the fiscal year 2023 budget was the full budget was about $301 million.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot that goes into that $301 million. That's a big budget. I mean, when you look at the state, I think we're the fourth or fifth biggest.
That's correct.
Budget, correct?
Albuquerque, Las Cruces, Santa Fe, and then us.
Okay. $88 million is actually what has been focused on the services for this community, and that includes roads, that includes police and fire and parks and all those components. So I thought it'd be good to kind of break down where exactly those dollars go. And I mean, I'll just start the biggest chunk out of that $88 million does go to police. They account for 24%.
If you combine all of public safety, police, fire, courts, it's nearly 50%. Is to emphasize the priority. And those are averages and a little bit of rounding there, but that's the key.
Public Works comes in at 17%.
Yep.
Another big chunk. And really right above that, of course, is Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs.
And to point out, this understates the amount of money invested in Public Works because this is just the tax portion of that. There are, countless projects that are funded by grants and other things that are above that amount. So otherwise it would be higher than 17%.
And you can also throw into the fact our R&R charge on your water bill is also associated with that.
Right. This is just a tax. So this actually doesn't include water and wastewater or electric at all.
Yeah.
This is pretty much just going to be streets.
Good for people to know that.
Yeah. That's only otherwise it'd be much higher, obviously. Yeah, and Parks and Rec, 20%. That's, again, we've always bragged about that or been proud about that. That's why this community isn't just a dusty old community. It's so much more than that.
I think it keeps us attractive to people from all over. I mean, that's always the number one thing when a visitor sends me an email or writes a letter and says, hey, I'm just really impressed with A, how clean your city is, and B, how many parks you have and how beautiful they are. I mean, I think, for our park staff, obviously all of our employees do, amazing work, but, Parks has been really depleted over the last couple of years.
It's the department that has been hit the worst with the supply chain issue and labor. It's just been very, very difficult in that sector of our employers' employment.
And I want to encourage people who are watching this. we need workers of the city. You know what? There's industries all across town that need solid workforce, and so I just encourage people to get out there.
We need lifeguards, and we need people willing to get out and work with their hands in our parks.
Big need. So within that $88 million, I think what people need to know as well, this budget book is available online.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that we're talking about here is obviously public knowledge.
And we're already producing the one for next year's budget.
And that's right. So we have 7, 8, 9 public meetings that deal directly with budget. We just had 2 dealing with our savings account and with the Community Transformation Fund.
Yes.
So great opportunity for people to tune in. Obviously, all city council meetings are streamed live. They're recorded for posterity. You can listen to them. You can pull the minutes up online and just to stay in tune with what's going on. And then 3 Tuesdays a month, we have those meetings. And I like to have public, engagement. And if there's something going on out there or you have questions, I mean, that's what your elected officials are here to do.
Yeah, especially as we move into budget season, which is about a 6-month process. And we're barely out of last year's budget, and we're already preparing for the budget that starts July 1. Department heads are already working on submitting their requests, and we're already starting to vet those things.
6-month process, and where we're looking at going forward, I definitely want to make sure we talk about where we've been. And so let me just throw out some projects to you.
Yeah.
Things that I think are highlights from 2022. We did an expansion of our river trail that included the Lemur Lookout, which of course we dedicated that particular spot on the river trail to Dr. Bob Lemur for his amazing work with River Reach and really being an advocate for us growing that community amenity.
Absolutely. From Boyd Park all the way out to Vista Highway now, the trail is connected.
Animas Park, right?
Well, it starts at Animas. I was just the new section started at Boyd, but yes, it's all the way now from Animas all the way to Vista Highway straight through. That new section out there on the far west side is some of the most beautiful. It's at the confluence of the 2 rivers, the cliffs, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't been out, I know you have. I'm speaking to the audience.
Sure.
You've got to get out there and check that out.
Is it 8 consecutive miles now that we have?
No, not 8 consecutive yet. It's probably more like 6 consecutive.
Okay.
But when you circle around and you can
lots of the trails,
lots of trails, and that just kind of leads into I'm a little bit ahead of you on our next topic, but priorities for next year is we really want to focus now this next segment on from Animas Park all the way to the far east side of town. We have virtually all that right away secured, so it's just a matter of having the construction funds to get that done, and then we would have completed the vision of River Trail off-road trail all the way from the west side to the east side of town. Pretty exciting.
So people know Animas Park is Browning Parkway.
Yes.
Right, that's where our animal shelter is.
Yep.
So we have all that to there. We want to get on the other side of Browning, behind the museum, back behind Middle Fork Square, all the way out to where another big highlight of this year is the Pinion Hills Bridge extension.
Yep.
So, and I see the vision in my mind, like I could leave my house on Foothills and get on Pinion, go straight down to the river, get on a river trail, and I could go all the way to the hospital.
Yeah, and I do that. I ride from my house up near the college, using the bike lanes, and get down and connect, get on the river trail.
I love to hear you say use bike lanes, by the way.
Yes, well, I certainly feel more comfortable in a bike lane than not being in one. That is for sure. And occasionally I even get up on a sidewalk,
So the council continues to make River Trail an important focus for us. So I think it's, I think it's a project that is certainly supported community-wide. Pinion Hills Golf Course, another big highlight of this year.
Sure is.
Built in 1989, I believe, 86, 89, somewhere there. Now here, 2022, able to go in and actually replace all of the irrigation system, which was failing all over the place and costing us a lot of time, a lot of money.
And a lot of damage to the turf and all kinds of problems. Well, we're calling this so much more than a renovation or this is a reconstruction.
Absolutely.
It really is a rebirth of this vision. The project grew in the sense that it started off really focused on the absolute need to do the sprinkler system. And then you get into that and say, well, the paths are really bad. And then, well, we're doing that. We ought to do the bunkers while we're at it. And, well, there's a real demand to redo the clubhouse and the parking and the landscaping. So in the end, people are going to be amazed at it. I mean, it's open back up now. It's a soft opening, as we're calling it. The clubhouse isn't open. The restrooms aren't open. We're just getting people back out there on the course. But when it comes together and it's finished and the grass comes back in, it's going to be spectacular.
Yeah, I think when people go out there and they see the colored concrete cart paths and they can see where a lot of vegetation overgrowth has been removed. You can look down now if you're going to the 8th hole, going across the bridge, and now those canyons are actually cleaned out, and you can
and
see
they were
all
never
the way to
supposed
the
to
floor.
have that vegetation because of the bad sprinkler system. All the overspray, you're spraying this area, and then all these species of things that we don't want grew into those areas. And to see it cleaned out, it's in some places it's like it's a different place. You've not seen it before. When you look down into some of those canyons. Yep.
Well, now coming into the parking lot, the buildings, newly stuccoed.
Double the size of the restrooms, created dressing areas.
I got to go in and check out the men's locker room. I think there's 24 lockers in there now. Yep. We can see, I think, by the time this airs, we may be in the actual pro shop by now. But again, it's this has been a huge project that continued to grow. I know it was, and I'll just say this: I appreciate people's patience and understanding as we work through supply chain issues, as we work through labor issues. I mean, 2022 is going to be known for those two things, if anything at all. Yeah,
I'm not going to say everything that could go wrong went wrong because the project came in on budget, but our contractors faced challenge after challenge with supplies, parts, sprinklers, labor, losing whole crews. I mean, it was a very, very challenging project in many ways, but I do really believe when people get out there and see it done, they're going to go, it was worth it.
We want to be in the top 10 municipal golf courses in America every single year. And I think that's really, when we want to talk about the experience of playing that golf course, that's the kind of context you want it to be. And when people show up and they think, wow, this is a rated golf course, they need to be able to associate the experience there that, yeah, it was. And the course design is spectacular. But it comes down to making sure you're maintaining all those areas, and I think this big renovation, as we've stated, is going to help facilitate that. And now, of course, you want to make sure the customer service experience is there, and that's a big focus for us also, as is Civitan Golf Course. So, I mean, that's that 9-hole golf course is really it's classic. So we're obviously focused on the maintenance there and continuing on with our golf renovation. So we talked about Pinyon Hills Bridge.
Not really. You mentioned that's another
briefly.
big. I know how it's pretty exciting. As long as I can remember, it's been the number one project, and it goes long before me. 3 mayors ago, it was identified, and it's been on the top priority list ever since.
And I would say I've got the 2023 ICIP, this capital improvement plan, here in front of me, and it's the first time that it's not on here.
Because it's funded.
Because it's
funded.
Exactly
right.
And for folks to know, I mean, this, as you stated, I mean, I didn't think we'd end up getting it done. I mean, it was going to take a huge, it was going to take some tax increase or something was going to have to happen in order for us to get this road. And the reason why this road has been on that top list, not just for us, but for the county and for the Metropolitan Planning Organization, is because it facilitates better traffic across the, traffic flows across the county, which are a benefit for our first responders. It's a benefit for people just commuting to and from home to work.
Opening up areas of town. Well, most people don't realize that. I don't know that how much of it's anecdotal and how much of it's factual, but I've always heard our friends at the county say that the Crouch Mesa area is the second largest city in San Juan County. Meaning it's not a city, obviously, it's unincorporated, but the amount of people that live in that area of the county is larger than either of the other two cities. And so to not have adequate transportation in and out of that area is critical, and it will open up a lot of economic opportunity. And
I know a lot of people up there who are very excited about this because they were told it was going to happen for forever and forever, and now I just picture them going, geez, I can come straight down into Farmington now. I don't have to go around one way or the other. And then for folks who do get concerned about traffic congestion on Main Street, while We have tried to optimize as much as we can with what we have available. I mean, we can't really expand the road there anymore, so to speak, and really it's just that elbow. This should alleviate some of that because you won't have to come in now from Browning. You'll be able to come in.
It absolutely will, and that's a big piece of it. Connectivity relieves congestion everywhere in a community. But there's also another factor here. It's not just a new access and lanes. It is a river crossing. So communities are completely controlled by how many river crossings they have from safety, from certain, God forbid, in a major emergency. But connectivity and the ability to expand and grow on both sides of a river is a big deal. You don't realize how much time you spend going out of your way in order to get to a bridge.
That's a really good point. Very good point. So that project, we're anticipating hopefully having everything done and ready to go out to bid early summer.
Late spring, early summer.
Okay.
Yep.
And potentially breaking ground
Could
in
be
the summer.
It could be that time frame. Yep.
That's big news. Big event we held this year, Four Corners Balloon Rally.
Yeah.
Turned out bigger than I could have possibly imagined it.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical. Myself, I'll admit, and it absolutely exceeded any, possible expectation of it. And personal fun, I got to get involved, and it was just a great time.
You were very, very
Well,
involved.
I got myself, by accident,
You ended up
I got
being the
myself
road
on a
crew.
crew. I know.
You got to fly in a balloon.
No, it was good.
You got to hold during the glow. You were there at the glow, helping out.
I was on a crew.
You did fantastic.
I was crewing that balloon.
Well, hey, kudos to Doug Lindbergh
Yep.
as well for having that vision and wanting to bring it
Yep.
back to Farmington, and then of course to the staff. Krista
Yep, Krista.
did such a great job in just kind of growing it and building on what we wanted it to be. That included the concert at Ricketts, the concert and Balloon Glow at San Juan College, who, by the way, was a huge partner in that also.
They were. Yeah, it was great. I can't remember anything in a long time that had so much instant enthusiasm and excitement in the community. But, it's very difficult to go to the Balloon Fest in Albuquerque. It's very expensive, and its logistics are hard. It was just so fun to go down there with your coffee and hang out and go out to lunch afterwards. Restaurants were full. It was a great event.
So we're already looking forward to, and we're already planning the 2023 version of that. Council has stated that they want to see this as an annual event. So
it'll grow and get better and better.
it's going to be fantastic. We have done a bunch of work downtown. Obviously, the downtown project, we completed it, so to speak. We actually did finish the landscaping now during 2022. It looks great. We've also put in some new Christmas lights.
I was going to say, phase 2 of the advancement of the Christmas experience down there is outstanding.
Those new lights just pop.
They
It just
do.
looks so good. And the Christmas parade, Tom Taylor took a picture of the parade from on top of Artifacts 302, and it's beautiful. And you actually see it right when the sun, there's just blue off in the distance, but then all those colors downtown.
Certainly more people than we've had in any time in any recent history, that's for sure.
I want to throw a number at it. Like it was 5,000, it was 8,000.
I don't
it
even
was
know how to estimate it.
It was so many folks who came out and celebrated, and we had, I believe we had over 70 floats and participants who were in the parade. So,
Well, and if your listeners haven't been down there, they've got to go see the lights. They've got to go by the Civic Center, see the new tree, go get pictures. It's amazing.
the new tree does some pretty spectacular things.
It does. It's
So, and I
high-tech.
noted they've got it on random, and now it does
high-tech.
all these
Yep.
awesome lighting features. So, we continue to work on that. We have also funded downtown art project, where we're going to bring in some commissioned artwork, some big, large structure, statues, and whatever. And looking forward to that plan as well. Gateway Park continues to be a focus for us, as is the All Abilities Park over on Apache. I believe in both situations, we have funded the construction documents to come
The full
to be delivered.
design, and in the case of the All Abilities Park, some early big successes in fundraising and public-private partnerships, and we're pretty confident we're going to be able to build that in sooner than later. That project.
No, I appreciate the community coming around and helping us raise money.
Yeah, our
for
local
that through the
group that's been kind
All
of
Those Park group.
the stakeholders they've set a goal of raise $5 million towards it.
Marilyn Montoya, I
Yep,
believe. Yep.
and her group.
Doing a great job there. So we will continue to keep people updated on that. The Gateway Park, of course, is right around the Farmington Museum area. We've got 2 phases we're looking at there. We have funded the full design for both phases, but we do have coming in through some grant opportunities. We have a pavilion that's going to be put in there on the south side of the museum, and that will help facilitate other outdoor events, the farmers market.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool.
Or growers market there. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty dynamic area, so excited about that. Warm water recreation pool, also known as a therapy pool.
Yep.
We like to play on words with that, but Lions Pool is currently that facility for us. We know that it was built in 1955.
Yep.
And its life is running out, but we want to be in a position where we can build the next level of warm water recreation pool, and we've already began that process.
Yeah, in fact, we just this week, we received some capital outlay money last year for design of that. Just this week, the grant agreements came across my desk, and so we'll be now soon going then out to hire the designer to come in and work with the community. We'll re-engage the community stakeholders and plan that project and get it going. The Lions Pool is definitely, it's hanging in there, but it would be an understatement to say it's near end of life.
Yeah, we've done enough work to it to keep it going, hopefully long enough for us to get that next iteration built at the Aquatic Center.
That's exactly the strategy.
Rob, we've got a few things here that I want to touch on outside of maybe projects, but certainly in the community there's always conversations about the airport. Communications, we've got conversations going on about electric utilities specifically now that San Juan Generating Station is currently shut down, and obviously we are still in the battle to keep that facility open and retrofit it with the carbon capture program. I say we, Chan Energy, supporting them in their efforts. But you and I are going to take a trip here and to meet with a regional airline company in January. We've met with this group before. They were very interested in serving us with jet service, and I'm excited to get back out to their headquarters and talk to them.
Yeah, I think it's important for folks to realize we've never forgotten about this goal. The first big objective was to get the funding necessary to upgrade the runways and the taxiways so that we can, in fact, fly jets again. After FAA laws changed, our airport no longer could. So that was the first step. That's done. I mean, many, many millions of dollars federally funded. So the feds totally support this being a legitimate airport again, and tens of millions of dollars.
I was going to say, I'm like $24 million.
It's probably 60 in the last 4 years.
Right, that it's been put into this, which, by the way, thankful for the support from our federal group.
Well, it's federally designated money that has to be spent that way.
Yeah.
And so passenger fees and things go to that. So the federal government is committed to that being a viable airport again. And we have been in constant talks, as of course, you'll recall, we'd signed an MOU.
Yes, we did.
With the largest regional jet carrier in the world, in fact, right before COVID. And now everything, of course, is challenging in the pilot shortage, labor shortage, but we're back in talks.
Yeah, I think people would understand the trials and tribulations that the airline industry in and of itself has faced since 2020.
Yeah, just turn on the news and say that's the challenge.
And we have seen regional airports across the country that have had to shut down, and obviously if you've flown recently, I mean, every plane they're flying is jam-packed, so there's less flights, there's more people, the demand is up, and of course when you don't have pilots, that's going to lead into that issue. Again, we need strong workforce in order to have these types of industries thrive. We do have a lot of activity going on up at the airport. We've got a fantastic flight school everybody I know now seems to be getting a pilot's license.
Yeah.
So things are still going on up there, and we're, fingers crossed, we're excited about this meeting we're going to have here in a month or so.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes.
And maybe just a little more detail on, you mentioned San Juan Generating Station, just it's on people's minds, and as you mentioned, we've been in the battle, and the battle is in the ninth inning with P&M. We're in litigation with them to fulfill their contractual obligations, and the plan is at least closed for now. We have faced every possible obstacle from P&M, from our state, from regulations. We have people that want to buy the power. We have people that want to buy the CO2. We have investors. I mean, we have everything is needed except a clear path regulatorily through our state and on the ownership with P&M. And so That's been the challenge. But I get asked sometimes, well, was the fight worth it? Well, it's hard to say it, but keep in mind we were generating power from that place at $44 a megawatt, and we're paying on average $102 right now. So when we fought that fight, it wasn't just about the jobs. It was about our Farmington Electric. We've told people all along, our rates will go up a minimum of 10% when that plant closes, and we're facing that right now because it is closed. To put that in perspective, like I said, we've been buying and/or making power as long as I can remember, the low $40 per megawatt hour.
I think one year was 38,
Yeah,
36. Recent years.
Right. The last 6 months we've been paying 102 on average. There was a time we were paying over 100. It's hard to even fathom what those numbers mean. On average, we're paying over 50% more for power. And so our rates are going to have to reflect that. Not to mention $20 million of investment we had already put in that plant in capital improvements that we're not getting a bailout the way P&M got a bailout. Our citizens, our utility customers are just eating that money. So that's why the fight was worth it. It's still worth it. We have not lost hope. Chance stays fully focused on it and fighting the fight and
hiring new people.
If it doesn't happen here, it'll maybe happen somewhere in this region. So.
No, this has definitely been an uphill battle for the city of Farmington, for Enchant. The powers that be have not wanted to see this plant continue, and I just reflect back to the battle during the Energy Transition Act. People were promised, Rob. They were promised by the individuals who got that bill passed that they can anticipate a lower electric bill after the plant closed. We are paying over double right now what we were paying while that plant was open, and I think some people need to apologize to New Mexico ratepayers for what's happening to them.
A resident of Albuquerque just told me last week they got a call from P&M wanting to put them on the list for interruptible power. They're planning for and expecting intermittent brownouts, and they're trying to prepare customers to be able to black them out on their air conditioner cycles.
You know my philosophy on this, and I believe anybody who's elected to a position where you have the authority and you have the oversight over utilities, that you have to be committed, that you are ensuring that any megawatt of power that comes off the grid needs to be replaced before it's taken off, right? Water lines need to be repaired and maintained and upkept.
Yeah,
these are all basic things, right?
Imagine if we took out a water line before we put a new one in.
Right. So for me, in the community that we represent and the services that we provide through Farmington Utility, there are people who are worried that we're going to be facing that same scenario that you just presented about Albuquerque. I've got people asking me if they should buy generators for their house, worried about blackouts or brownouts happening here in our electric service area. Is there anything we can say? I mean, I've obviously been reassuring that we don't anticipate that happening here, but we can't account for everything.
No, I mean there are things beyond our control. One big event like the California event, when power was $875 a megawatt, could throw who knows what into the purchase power. We are more exposed to the purchase power market than we would like to be, having lost San Juan Generating Station. But I don't think you should plan for blackouts, brownouts. But power is going to be more expensive. It's everywhere, including in Farmington. We have been used to having it so cheap by comparison to the market, and a lot's changed in this industry.
So we have already committed to building a 20 megawatt power plant, a reciprocal engine. Yep. And there are some other projects happening in and around us that we're paying attention to as well to help shore up our
both
our load.
From solar, natural gas, other projects that are out there. But our own reciprocating engines. Now, in fact, interesting enough, that it will be that process more formally is going to be on the council's agenda just in the next month moving forward. Council's budgeted, planned on, and now it's time to make the specific decisions.
People need to know that where our power comes from. First of all, we have Bluffview, which provides 60 megawatts or so of
combined natural gas
power. We have Navajo Dam generating station, which we've used for decades, which provides, I think at peak times it's like 15 megawatts.
It's just the problem there is it's intermittent depending on the flow of the river.
Sure.
So it's a challenge.
We have obviously power purchase agreements with organizations, power dealers throughout the West that we're on, and that's where we're going to have to buy more power. That's the reality. It's going to be more expensive. It's not the ideal situation. The ideal situation would be to maintain the services provided by San Juan Generating Station, which is why one of the main reasons we have fought so hard to keep it
it's
open.
$100 million investment to replace what we had from San Juan Generating Station, not to mention the diversity in our portfolio. It was good to have coal. It was good to have water. It was good to have natural gas. We're actively looking at a number of solar projects out there as well. There's a place for solar in our system as well.
Sure. All right, so we'll probably have more information, obviously, for folks as that saga continues, so to speak. Water's another important issue that are on people's minds. Just to give some kind of context, obviously we want to make sure that we're able to provide this community the water that it needs. We recognize that there is changes in snowpack and river flows and all those things. We are fortunate right now, by the way, that for the snowpack that we're concerned about, it's 101% of average. So where we sit today, we're in a pretty good spot. But long-term planning, we have, obviously, our water comes from the Animas River. We have access to water from the San Juan in emergency situations. We have Lake Farmington, which is our reservoir, and holds, I think, 180 days worth of water during an average water use period. We also have, I don't know how many acre feet, but we've got a substantial amount of water up at Lake Nighthorse that we would only get access to in emergency situations where they would release that water into the Animas River. But there are concerns and challenges associated with that also. Going forward, we're looking for other options that are available. Currently, we are seeking, I believe, grant monies to do a feasibility study of expanding the capacity of Lake Farmington.
Yeah, you mentioned, the city's been very proactive for decades on water rights, so it's so much better shape than most communities. And then you already mentioned what we've already completed here in the last several-year project was the secondary access to pump out of the San Juan. That's huge because we're not dependent on one river. And then we're in great shape, really, in terms of for any near future with the reservoir we have. We are. I always like to remind people that, think about who you vote for. You go back in 1964, and that passed by a 3-2 vote of the Farmington City Council to construct the reservoir. We almost didn't have it, and we are so much better than most. But to your point, we've actually completed the feasibility study that says it's feasible, but when you're talking about something with all the engineering to really render it, they've got to get to about actual 30% design. So we're seeking grant money to actually move to the point of a preliminary design, boring holes, all the things that will go into that. I can't imagine what the total cost of that project is, but it's something if you don't start planning for now, the next generation may very well need it.
Well, and we've seen how expensive things can get, obviously.
Yeah. But there's nothing we could do cheaper than expand our dam.
No,
you start talking about trying to build a new reservoir, and it's
building new reservoirs or building pipelines from Lake Nighthorse to Farmington. Those are we're talking hundreds of millions. It's a big project.
Exactly right. If you can get the clearance to do it these days. Well,
anything else you have on your list? We've covered a lot of ground.
One thing I just
today.
thought of when we were talking about some of our new initiatives, council just recently approved funding to add 4 new park rangers. We want folks to know we really remain committed to keeping our parks as safe as we possibly can and people as comfortable as we can in them, and having a presence of uniformed personnel down there, ambassadors to the community is an important one.
I'm glad you brought that up because this just came out of a meeting that we had, I think, in late October.
Yeah.
To approve those positions, also to approve the outdoor recreation director position to get them back on board, so we can have somebody in-house that's helping us develop those assets and programming and work with local groups that are out there.
That position has been vacant for probably 3 or 4 years, so it's good to get that back.
We've also committed, I believe, $50,000 that we're going to work a program together for nonprofit organizations that are out there working in the outdoor recreation area to maybe help provide them some support to get their businesses kicked off or their programs run. So that's a big one.
Well, don't go off a huge tangent because it's a whole topic, but council just approved $800,000 for complete renovation, finished renovations of Worley Field.
Worley baseball field, it's a beautiful field. You got the ivy vines on the outfield wall. You got the big trees, but has lacked some amenities, and certainly the fencing that's been there since 1960.
Yeah, we redid the field a few years ago, but,
Right.
fencing,
ADA
shade,
access, shade.
Yep, it's going to be a nice upgrade.
It's going to be a big upgrade.
It's pretty impressive, the level of commitment, again, the city continues to put into our parks and fields and share them with the community the way that we do.
It is admirable that we've been able to carry that. I'm going to say it a burden, but it's been our mission to make sure that we could provide, quality amenities for people to utilize for outdoor recreation, whether it's organized sports or other, for all these years. And it's shared not just by community members; it's shared by the schools.
And we're victims of our own success now. All the growth of interest in outdoor rec, our demands for the number of people that want to use these fields isn't just the schools. All of our community groups and clubs. And there's just more people that want to be on those fields than we do have fields to allow them to do. So that's a challenge, and at the same time, make sure we maintain the ones that we have.
Right. That's where that workforce comes in. So critical.
Yeah.
And I will say this in regards to shade. Shade's an important topic. I would like all of our parks to have some shade structures, and we're certainly dedicated. And I think this will be a great example of that.
Start doing a little bit a year. Council approved in that recent budget adjustment $100,000 to do a little bit more work at the rec center, in the gymnasium, lighting, and some different things in there. We redid the roof last year, but for those that use the rec center, that's an important deal to them.
It is, and I think, we've talked about this, and I know many people agree it would be time for us to get that next generation recreation center. We're fortunate to live in a community, though, where we have some other groups. The college has a fantastic recreation facility. Obviously, the special thing about the Farmington Rec Center is we got the gym, got a big gym, and we got racquetball. Mm-hmm. And racquetball is a fun sport everybody's getting into, along with like pickleball, for example. And that was another one we forgot about that.
Yeah. Finished up the new pickleball this year.
The new pickleball court.
Regional pickleball.
You saw the city of Durango is still doing a study on the noise component of building a pickleball court.
Doesn't seem that noisy to me, but I guess
somebody might disagree with that, but
yes.
I think Brookside Park, in and of itself, with the addition of Bistye Bay, the addition of the pickleball courts, and I'm hopeful here soon that we're going to have some upgrades done to the skate park as well.
We're doing some renovations to the shelters as well.
It's a focused park. It's our biggest kind of wide open space park. We obviously pay a lot of attention to that, and we want to make it as good as we can. Anything else on?
Well, we could talk all day, but
I
think that's probably good taste for people of all that's going on.
2022 was a big year. I mean, just coming out of what we faced in 2020, and still a little bit unrest in 2021. I think we were able to accomplish a lot in the best interest of this community, and I think a lot of people will be proud. I certainly get those comments. We're proud of the city that we live in. We're proud of the work that everybody's putting in to make this a great place to raise a family. I will just share this with you. And this, I say this cautiously because anytime I say his name or put a picture of him out there in the world, but my son, God bless him, told me that day that he thinks Farmington would be a great place for him to raise his family.
Wow,
and that really just, even right now, just kind of catches me. Just that's the kind of impact we're having when you have a teenage boy who's into all the cool stuff that he's into, and he's like, man, I could definitely see raise my family here. I think that speaks a lot to what we're doing.
That's awesome.
So, hey, Rob Mays, thank you for all you do and your staff. We're losing an important staff member here who's going off into the world to operate their new business, and Georgette Allen, who has served this community well for 16 years. Yeah.
She's the face behind the scenes of the Mayor's Table production.
Yes, her and Greg. Definitely the people who've created, this is their brainchild. Mayor Roberts was able to capitalize on this, and now look at this amazing studio that we have here at San Juan Safe Community Studio. Yeah. But I just want to say thank you to Georgette, who's in the audience here today, for everything that she's done.
That's what we need. We need a live studio audience as the
next level.
Yeah,
not a laugh track, a live studio audience. Certainly, but yes, thank you, Georgette. All right. Well, Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yeah, same to you. Appreciate all that you do. People take for granted the time and work and energy that you put into this community, and we are fortunate to have you.
Well, I really appreciate
And all
that.
the counselors.
Yeah, I tell people all the time how blessed I am to be of service to the community right now where we're at, and be able to work with people who really have that same vision for what they want to see our city be and what we want it to become. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, thank you, sir, for being here. Thank you for joining us on this Christmas episode of the Mayor's Table. Hope 2022 has brought an abundance of joy and happiness and good memories to you and your families. I hope this Christmas season also adds to that. But we will be back in 2023 with new episodes. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time here on the Mayor's Table.